everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to be doing the Keoker cutter egg design, the Adora 2. And you're like going, what? I have a hard time coming up with titles, so I consult my baby book for names. I like to name my eggs. So here's what I'm going to be starting out with: some scrap clay. It looks a little on the grayish side, which generally I try to get there anyway. So I rolled this out on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine, and I'm bringing in some of my stamps. I will have a link to these particular stamps that I'm using here today, and it'll be in my description area, so if you need to look that up, you can go ahead and do so. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and just on the sheet, I'm placing down any number of different designs from these stamps on there. Once I have that, I'm going to use my blade, my tissue blade, to help bring up this clay, and that way then I can go ahead and I'll start bringing in my white acrylic paint, and I'll just lightly go over with my finger on the very tops of the designs that were stamped here. Now, I don't normally, and actually I'm not showing it right here, but if you're using these stamps, if you wish to make sure that your clay does not stick to them, you can use either your cornstarch or baby powder, whichever you use, to go ahead and make sure that you get a good release on the clay. Of course, right here, I'm bringing it up with my tissue blade, and I'm now going to bring in that white acrylic paint. We're now going to bring in our Keoker basic clay cutters, and I really liked that long teardrop. I thought that would work really good, especially for this eggshell design. And then I also liked that same similar like little decorative tiny cutter. I thought that would work really well in concert with it. I was, thinking about the small teardrop and even the other one, but in the end, it was that decorative one that I really liked the most. So right here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out 4 of these pieces, and then I'm going to take that smaller cutter, and on the bottom, more blunt end of each of these teardrops, we're going to cut out and try to position this thing right in the middle where we can cut out that smaller form in the teardrop pieces. Once we get the smaller pieces cut out of the larger teardrops and we lift those smaller pieces out, you're going to go ahead and take your blade and lift up gently from your tile each of these larger teardrops. All right, so now we need to go ahead and prep our egg. And I'm bringing in a couple of little rubber bands here, and I'm placing one on one end and then one of the sides of the rubber band on the other. I'm trying to get a nice vertical line. And this is a great way of being able to draw a line on your eggshell without having to get a really expensive egg marker or anything like that. Rubber bands work really great. And so I'm doing that pretty much my north-south on 2 sides. So I'm going to have 4 equal areas, and you just snap those rubber bands in place to get a decent idea of where your straight line is going to be from one end of the eggshell to the other. Once we have our lines drawn, we're going to go ahead and bring in the clay that we had just cut out with our basic Keoker cutters. And we're going to gently lift off each piece, and then we're going to place one piece here right over, centering this thing right over the line that has been designated on our eggshell. Okay, very simple. I mean, that's the nice thing about having these lines down. You know exactly where to place it. You just follow the line and that little teardrop will go right over it. Once you have this clay in place and you really like the positioning of where it is, I suggest going ahead and gently lifting up part of it and then applying a little bit of your epoxy glue to keep it all positioned and in one place. I know that, some of you are a little skeptical about using your super glue or whatever, but truly between eggshell and clay, it's not gonna, it's not, liquid Sculpey is not gonna help you here, okay? Neither is your weld bond, because eventually the clay will come off the shell. So to make sure it stays on, use your epoxy. Okay, now we're going to come to the fun, right? I've been addicted to those crazy metallics in acrylic paint. I can't help it. I can't get away from them. So we're bringing in our pastel blue, which is the color shift type, which is even more fun in my mind. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to smooth this over our raw clay that has been unbaked, okay? So all of our clay so far, even, the first part, it's all unbaked clay so far. Anyways, I'm just kind of going over it, and after a little bit, I thought I could use the brush, but no, just bring in your finger. After a little bit, you're just going to say, this is not working. I'm just getting score marks. After a bit, you just bring your finger in. You're going to get a much smoother kind of coverage using your finger. Anyway, I'm bringing in my cutters here. I picked out another decorative type from that basic Keoker set, and I really liked this one. I thought this would be a nice complement to the other cutter. So you're going to go ahead and create 4 of these. Now that we have our 4 pieces here, I decided I was going to use the smaller teardrop from that basic Keoker set and go ahead and just cut out an inner piece here. I was thinking about the decorative one, but I thought, no, we've used it enough already. Let's go to a different form. So this is where that teardrop just kind of came into play. And so on each of these pieces, you're going to cut that out. Once you do, you're going to use your needle tool to go ahead and lift out those smaller teardrops from the larger forms. Once you've got those pieces lifted up off of your tile, you're going to bring in your egg and you're going to place them right in between the teardrop areas. And this to me was just a lot of fun. This is where you can just go nuts. I love those cutters. They are just made for this sort of thing with eggs. So if you are ever wondering if, I don't know if I can do egg art with the clay, guess what? This is a real easy way of doing it because the cutters, the forms, they're already there. You have your pasta machine to roll out your clay, and then of course your metallic paint, which you could just use your finger on. It makes this sort of thing, makes egg art so much more easier for those of you who are just beginning. All right, so right here I've got a piece of my unbaked clay that I've covered with my green flash metallic paint. And I'm bringing in one of the smaller forms. It looks kind of like a leaf shape in my mind, a pointed leaf, if you will. And mind you, my paint here is wet. It's pretty fresh. So I have like a baby wipe right next to me so I could go ahead and wipe off any excess paint that gets onto the little cutter I get. Anyways, I'm going in here, I'm cutting some of these forms in that cutter that I just used, and then I'm bringing in my Kemper cutter, which I have my teardrop shape here, the smallest one that they have available, and I'm cutting out little pieces of teardrops as well. Okay, now I'm bringing in another piece of scrap clay and my dragon flash, and I'm going to go ahead and cover that piece of clay with that particular paint. Once I have that, we're also going to cut out some more really fun forms with my cutters, the tinier ones, all right? And we're going to go ahead and use those forms in creating added details onto our eggshell. Okay, so I wanted to add in a little bit more detail to the forms I have on the shell. So I have kind of a big open space here, so I took that smallest Kemper leaf cutter and I just kind of went down to the point there and decided, let's go ahead and cut in on this. And you can cut in on the shell and it's not going to break. I know people be like, oh no, 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 it's going to break. No, 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 the shell's not going to break. You just go gently. If you're really worried, go gently when you cut down, but it will work out just fine. And then use your needle tool to lift out the tiny little piece that you just cut out. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys just watch my hands talk as I put more and more of this design together on my eggshell. All right, so now I'm going to start adding more details to this design. I've got a few in, but I thought, you know, I have so many that I cut out. I thought, let's use the pieces that I have, the little tiny leaves that I had created, and place them into the design. And it really made a difference. I didn't realize that when I got right down to it, I didn't have to make too many more little tiny leaves with my Kemper cutters. I had just almost enough just for everything that I was doing. So go ahead and just create those different kinds of forms with your cutters and have some fun with them. Like I said, I'm showing here, I'm taking the little tiny pieces and really the tiny little leaves, the tiny little pieces that you could put into the design, that's what makes it. To me, the more detail, the better. It seems to add to it, it gives more interest, and you'll really enjoy it a whole lot more. All right, so right here I'm bringing in that dragon flash, and these are those pieces that were cut. Usually well, using that leaf-like petal type, pointed petal type of cutter. And I'm going to have them following the lines that I have drawn out. And they'll just kind of join up right there at the very base. And then once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take another piece of my scrap clay. I'm going to paint it with that blue pastel. And then once I have that painted, I'm going to cut out the same forms and then take that cutter and go to my egg and use it on the green forms that are identical to the ones I just cut out. So I'm taking it and I'm coming down slightly on each of those petal-like leaf pieces, and I'm just making an indent. Eventually here, I'm going to cut down further onto those pieces, cutting it out entirely. And then once I take that green piece out, I'll take one of the blue pieces and insert that into each of those little spots where I've taken out that green piece. Now here's an idea, and this is what I probably should have done in the first place and make it all easy on all of you. Instead, create the green pieces and then cut down slightly on the green pieces on a piece of tile and then insert the little blue pieces and put them on your egg. Hello! Why did I not think of that the first time? Okay, so I'm bringing in my plum flash here and I'm just covering this over on some of that unbaked clay one more time. And if I haven't said it before, the unbaked clay has been thinned out to a number 4 or a number 4 setting on your Atlas pasta machine. And again, I'm using my finger just to kind of swipe it over it. I love this plum flash. It's such a neat color to work with. But anyway, I'm going to bring that in and then I'm going to bring in my cutters, my tinier cutters again, and especially that decorative one that I used the first time around. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut 4 of these pieces, all right? So 4 of these pieces, and then I'm going to cut some other 4 of the other pieces with that leaf type, petal type cutter, and then I'm going to just do some smaller ones as well. So after I cut out most all of my pieces, I took that decorative piece and I cut some more of those. And right here where I had that gap from before at the very beginning, we're going to take one and we're just going to fill it in right in that gap. And I love that. Oh my goodness, because it's all the same thickness and I'm using the already pre-cut form. It fits in beautifully. And so it just makes it so much easier to go ahead and create any kind of design you want, really. But in this case, I'm taking that form and I'm just filling it in, and it just offsets that nice white and gray with that nice pinkish type, or I should say purplish like gold-like piece that I'm putting in. It just turned out so well. So anyway, I went ahead, I took some more of these forms and I'm placing them all over the egg. And really in this regard, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys just watch my hands talk as I keep putting more and more detail onto the shell. So right around this point, I went ahead and I took this egg after I put so many of these little details on, and I placed it in the oven and I baked it at 275 degrees for about 7 to 10 minutes. And I have to say, when you go to bake this, do it to the point of where you feel like you can't handle it anymore without destroying the design. So if you feel like you can't handle it anymore, go and bake the egg. Do it for about 7 to 10 minutes and then take it out, cool it, and then come back in and do more detail. At this point, my egg has been completely baked, so it's all hard on the top. And I decided to bring in some of these jewelry pieces I found from Hobby Lobby, actually. And they're found them kind of in the beading section area. These are like little, and if you go online, if you go and look up nail art pieces like jewelry, you'll find the same kind of thing. That's what I use here, and it works fantastic. I've been trying to figure out how to get little tiny itty bitty rhinestone metallic pieces, tiny stuff, not too tiny, but tiny enough that has a little bit of a design in it so that I could use it on eggshell, and I finally found the thing. So look up either nail art little jewelry pieces, or go, and you can find that even on Amazon, or go ahead and check out your craft stores. They have that too. But anyways, I bought 2 bags of this because I wanted to have a matching set. So this way I could have one on one side and then one on the other, and it would be the same rhinestone jewelry piece on 2 sides. So that's why I did 2. If you really want to make it so it's the same all the way around, you're going to have to buy 4. So I thought, no, I'm just getting 2, and then I can pick out another set and take that pair and place that on the other 2 sides. So as I was creating this eggshell design, I decided I really needed to bring in some black to help kind of just anchor this thing down. You know, the pastels are really pretty, they're really beautiful, you got the white and everything, but, I needed a couple of black balls, and I also needed a hanger on one side, and then on the bottom of the egg we were going to go ahead, or at least I was going to go ahead and create a metal tassel piece to put on the bottom. So right here I'm putting a little bit of super glue on top, I'm adding in that little black ball, and I'm anchoring that thing down. Now this works. This hanger piece really works, and I'll tell you why. It's not jewelry. Anytime you deal with jewelry, you gotta make sure that sucker's gonna last for forever. But with more delicate things like eggshell, you can get away with a whole lot more. So all I did was I took, like, I'm gonna say 24 gauge wire here, twisted up into a little loop, put a little dot of super glue there, and then anchored that little loop on top so it can hang. Wonderful little way to do it without having to do much more at all. Once I had that, I thought, let's go ahead and make some dots, but I also wanted to do the bottom part, and so I did kind of the same similar kind of thing. I went ahead and made that little black ball, or I should say teardrop form, and then eventually made the little loop thing with the wire where I twisted it up, put it in the bottom, so this way then I could hang a nice little silver-like tassel on the bottom. But after that, I went ahead, also made a few more balls, and added those in to the overall piece, using my knitting needle to go ahead and indent each ball, where I could then place in extra tiny single pointed backed rhinestones. But from here, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys just watch my hands talk as I not only add in the black little balls and stuff, but also a couple other little details. Once I get this done, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment where we finish this whole thing up. All right, so the egg has been baked one more time at about 7 to 10 minutes at 275 degrees. And now I'm bringing in my rhinestones. And I'm going to place those rhinestones pretty much in the little black indented balls that I had created. Once I have those in place, I'm also going to bring in my white acrylic paint one more time. I'm going to make a little dot pattern on the bottom part of the egg on the dark green leaf petal type things, okay? Once I have that done, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to start creating my tassel and finishing it up entirely. So when it came to this tassel on the very bottom of my egg, I pretty much had some leftover earrings that had these little loops, and I thought, let's go ahead and take a couple of jump rings, a little bit of extra leftover chain, and put it all together into pretty much this tassel feature I had created. So if you can kind of come up with any kind of little thing to dangle off of your egg, absolutely have some fun with that and do it. All right, so this is the end result in creating my Adora 2 eggshell. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.